He saw hell on earth and America laughed. Before you trust maps, before you believe history books, before you assume the world has already been discovered, stop for a moment and imagine this. You are young, barely 18, no education, no money, no powerful name behind you. You walk west into a land no one understands. The ground beneath your feet hisses as if it is alive. Water boils without fire. Mud bubbles and breathes. Steam explodes from the earth like cannon fire. Rivers smell of sulfur. Forests have turned into stone. You come back and tell people what you saw. They laugh. They call you a liar. They say you are drunk. They say you are insane. You spend your entire life being doubted, and only after you are gone, the world finally admits, you were right. This is not myth. This is not exaggeration. This is the true story of Jim Bridger. Jim Bridger was born in 1804. His life began with hardship and loss. When he was just 13 years old, his father died, leaving him orphaned in St. Louis, Missouri. In early 19th century America, an orphan without money was almost invisible. There was no education waiting for him. School was a luxury he could not afford. He learned only the basics of reading and writing. What he lacked in formal education, he would later replace with something far more powerful: memory, observation, and instinct. To survive, Jim was apprenticed to a blacksmith. His days were filled with fire, iron, sweat, and exhaustion. It was honest work, but it offered no future, only survival. His life seemed already decided. Then one day, a simple newspaper advertisement caught his eye. It was short and brutally honest. Men wanted, dangerous journey, Rocky Mountains, beaver trapping expedition, no promises, no safety, no guarantees, only danger. Jim Bridger was 18 years old. He signed his name. That decision sent him walking west on foot into territory that no American truly understood. The American West of the 1820s was not opportunity. It was risk in its rawest form. Maps were guesses. Rivers could kill you. Winters could freeze you where you stood. Hunger, disease, wild animals, and violent conflict were constant companions. People didn't explore the West. They survived it, if they were lucky. Jim Bridger survived. He walked thousands of miles through unmapped land. He learned to read the world itself: clouds, wind, animal behavior, and silence. While others relied on written directions, Bridger carried the mountains in his mind. Around 1824, while traveling along the Bear River, something extraordinary happened. He reached a vast body of water stretching endlessly before him. No visible shore, no clear beginning or end. He knelt down, scooped the water into his hands, drank. The taste shocked him. Salty, bitter, heavy. Bridger became convinced he had reached the Pacific Ocean, the final edge of the continent. No map contradicted him. No explorer before him had described anything different. But this was not the ocean. Jim Bridger had just discovered the Great Salt Lake. At that time, most Americans didn't even know a place called Utah existed. When Bridger spoke of the lake, many dismissed him. Some laughed. Others quietly ignored him. But worse disbelief was yet to come. As Bridger pushed farther west, he entered a land that seemed unreal. The earth cracked and steamed. Water erupted violently from the ground. Rivers boiled without flame. Mud pots gurgled and breathed. Entire forests had turned to stone. When Bridger returned and told people what he had seen, disbelief turned into ridicule. They mocked him openly. They accused him of lying. They said no such place could exist. Some began calling his stories Bridger's Hell. He described geysers shooting water higher than trees, streams hot enough to cook meat, landscapes that looked broken and cursed. No one believed him. What Jim Bridger had actually seen was Yellowstone, almost 40 years before it became the world's first national park. The land was real. The science was real. America simply wasn't ready for the truth. Despite the laughter, Jim Bridger kept moving forward. He became one of the most skilled mountain men of his era. He learned multiple Native American languages and earned the respect of tribes others feared. He married into the Flathead tribe and lived among indigenous people not as a conqueror, but as a student of the land. Bridger rarely wrote anything down. Instead, he memorized mountain passes, valleys, rivers, and weather patterns. He could sense storms before they arrived. He could guide travelers through terrain others believed impossible. For decades, he lived this life, constantly moving, constantly surviving. Then the beaver fur trade collapsed. Many mountain men faded into history. Jim Bridger adapted once again. In 1843, he built Fort Bridger along the Oregon Trail. It was not luxurious. It was not elegant. It was necessary. The fort became a lifeline for westward travelers. Families arrived starving, freezing, lost, and hopeless. Thousands survived because Fort Bridger existed. For many, it was the difference between life and death. When the U.S. Army needed routes through the Rocky Mountains, they called Jim Bridger. When railroad planners searched for safe mountain passes, they called Jim Bridger. When scientists wanted to understand the strange geology of the West, they called Jim Bridger. Even the people who once mocked him now depended on his knowledge. Yet true recognition never came. By the 1870s, age finally caught him. His eyesight faded until he was nearly blind. His body weakened after decades of hardship. The West he loved had changed. Wild lands were fenced, sold, renamed, and controlled by people who had never walked them. Quietly, Jim Bridger returned to Missouri. No ceremonies, no medals, no wealth. On July 17, 1881, Jim Bridger died at the age of 77. He died poor. He died blind. He died largely forgotten. History, however, is patient. Years later, geologists confirm Yellowstone's geysers, boiling rivers, and volcanic activity. Cartographers finalized accurate maps of the Great Salt Lake. Historians retraced Bridger's roots and realized something unsettling. Jim Bridger had been right all along. Every mock story, every dismissed description, every so-called lie. Today, his name is carved into the American West. Bridger National Forest, Bridger Peak, Bridger Pass, Fort Bridger, an orphan with little education. A man once laughed at, now remembered as one of America's greatest explorers. Jim Bridger saw the future before his nation could understand it. He spoke the truth when the truth sounded impossible, and he paid for that honesty with loneliness. All because an 18-year-old boy answered a newspaper advertisement and mistook a salt desert for the edge of the world. Truth does not need immediate belief to remain true. Sometimes history laughs first and apologizes later. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay curious, because history still holds many forgotten truths waiting to be discovered.